in addition to their whistle-stop tours on the campaign trail, presidential candidates have also been targeting specific audiences through public lectures and symposia. It has not been different for Atiku Abubakar, the presidential standard-bearer for the People's Democratic Party, who is here in Lagos for a number of such engagements. Charles Aniagwu is Delta State's Commissioner for Information and Orientation and spokesman at Atiku Abubakar Presidential Campaign Organization. He joins us now for a quick conversation. It's great to have you, Charles. Now let's get straight to it. I know today you're at Lagos. Good afternoon. Today you're at Lagos Business School under the theme, The Leadership Imperative. Can you tell us a little bit more about your candidates' interaction?
Well, I'm happy I'm in your Lagos, and beautiful state, but it has not been easy. The traffic is as hellish as it has always been. So now to the question you asked, I am happy that I was also part of the engagement at the Lagos Business School, where the presidential candidate of our party, the People's Democratic Party, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, was able to take the members, the alumni of the Lagos Business School through a whole lot of programs very well outlined in his economic blueprint, captured in his manifesto titled My Covenant with Nigerians. And a lot of questions were asked as to the how. And of course, like I mentioned in a number of interviews I've had cause to undertake, that the how is very much important. So it's not enough for somebody to say, I will do this. The question is, how are you going to do it? And before I now take you into those hows, which he clearly outlined, I want to remind you that in 1999, when the Obasanjo and Atiku became the president and the vice president of this country, after, of course, the 1999 general elections, which perhaps saw the end of the military era in our country, the situation we're in now was actually quite similar to what it was then, but at this moment, it seemed a little worse. And Atiku, as the vice president, was given the mandate, and we must appreciate former President Olusegun Obasanjo, to be able to carry out certain responsibility, particularly with respect to economic issues. And that time, Atiku traveled to the World Bank to ask questions as to what we're going to do with our very huge debt burden. And in the course of the conversation with the leaders of the World Bank at that time, he was reminded that there was even a very intelligent Nigerian who is doing well in the World Bank. And Atiku asked, who is that? They introduced him to Okonjo-Iweala. And that was how he came back and informed Olusegun Obasanjo that we have somebody who can help us, who is even from this part of the world. And by the grace of God, that was how Okonjo-Iweala came into the picture. And the rest is history as to what they did to our debt burden at that time. Why I needed to tell you this story is to bring to your notice the ability of Atiku Abubakar to headhunt. And the job of any president is not to become a medical doctor. It's not to become an engineer to be able to engage in engineering jobs. It's not also to become a teacher to be able to teach in schools, but able to recognize those who have got the teaching abilities, those who have got the engineering abilities, and those who understand medicine to be able to administer health needs to the people. And that is where Atiku belongs. So as a headhunter who hunts for talents, I will now want to tell you what he wants to do in the economic realm. The Atiku policy in the economic phase is first of all to achieve two things. One, to bridge the disparity between the have and the have-nots in our country. Of course, today, you know, there's a very huge gap between those who have and those who don't have. And secondly, to attempt, by the grace of God, to take away many who are falling into the poverty bracket out of that poverty situation that they find themselves. And the question is, how is he going to do that? Which, of course, now come to why you were asking me what the engagement was all about. He was able to take a look at what he wants to do in the power sector, which is a very, very relevant sector for us to be able to reactivate our economy. He was able to address what he's going to do with the issue of the size of government. Of course, many Nigerians believe that our government, particularly at the federal level, is over-bloated and is too heavy, and as such, a number of funds that should have been freed for the purpose of revitalizing our economy and then being able to have a positive effect on infrastructure is being diverted to the recurrent part of the budget, which is why we have over 78% of our budget being spent on recurrent rather than on the capital side of the budget that affects everybody's life. Atiku again was able to talk about what he is also going to do with respect to ensuring that the private sector play very critical role in our economy, so that at the end of the day, you have less of government and more of the private sector being able to revive a number of the industries that we have in our country. And perhaps in the course of this conversation, we can now begin to go into the nitty-gritty of some of these key areas that I have mentioned, which of course were featured in the course of the conversation at the Lagos Business School today.
I'm sure it was a very productive, session like you've outlined. But I'm curious as to when we will see, the presidential candidate, say these things for himself in terms of addressing the electorate, like what we had in terms of the town hall. I think it would be refreshing to be in a setup whereby the everyday Nigerian has the opportunity to engage the presidential candidate, because in the end, these are the people that do matter. The everyday Nigerian that might not be able to just show up at his office and say, I want to talk to you, gets the chance to engage the president in setups like that. So when are we going to see your candidates, engage the general public as opposed to, planned events that only entertain just a specific number of people in a specific niche?
Okay, now let me first of all correct some impressions before I proceed to answer your question. First, the Lagos Business School is not his office, so he did not speak in his office. The interaction at the Lagos Business School is not just to share his manifesto. He spoke directly to the persons, and those at the Lagos Business School are also part of the electorate, and they are also everyday Nigerians. In every society, you have people we call opinion molders, who try as much as possible to be able to understand the issues and then give it out to members of the public. And again, Atiku have also featured in a number of conversations amongst Nigerians, not arranged or planned by him nor the political party, but invited. Just like what we saw today, the Lagos Business School alumni, the 26 alumni, first of all thanked him for accepting to be available, which means they were the one that extended the invitation. Secondly, I also recall not long ago, I had also the privilege of appearing on your very wonderful station in the course of that interaction with the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry here in Lagos, of course on their own invitation. We have also had cause to appear before the ROI group in Kaduna and many others. The Arise and the CDD organized event, it just happened that he was, of course, outside the country, the date that he was bid to appear, and then he assigned his running mate, the governor of Delta State, Senator Okowa, to appear. And of course, I'm sure you saw that he also gave a very good account of the mandate that both of them are seeking to have on behalf of, to preside over the affairs of this country on behalf of Nigerians. Now, on the need to be able to also talk to Nigerians, Atiku is one person who is very much in touch with Nigerians, that beyond the issue of the campaigns, which of course you know that the PDP is the party that kick-started the issue of official campaign, talking to Nigerians across the length and breadth of this country, and is still progressing along that line. It's only one of the other political parties now that have managed to join. Others are the ones organizing their own personal events. And so, in the course of this interaction today, he spoke to Nigerians. Those both members of the Lagos Business School and other stakeholders who were at that event asked questions freely. And he answered all the questions as to how he's going to ensure that the projects, that the programs he has clearly outlined in the manifesto titled My Covenant with Nigerians will indeed be implemented. First, on the issue of the size of government and how he intends to ensure that we have a functional government. He recalled that during the administration of Olusegun Obasanjo, which of course he was a major player, they looked at the issue of the size of government and then came up with what we now call the Orasaya report. Orasaya then was mandated by the Obasanjo-Atiku administration to take a look at the size of government, look at parastatals, look at the civil service, and indeed a number of other government functionalities with a view to ensuring that we are going to have a size of government that addresses the issues, that is effective, that is efficient, and that is able to reduce the very huge amount of funds that is expended on the recurrent part of the budget. And that report, because those who came after in the course of time possibly did not understand the nitty-gritty, were not able to effectively implement it the way it was captured by the Orasaya Committee. And Atiku says he's going to revisit that with a view to ensuring that we have a government that function effectively for the rest of us.
Let's talk about the size of government, smaller size of government, and maybe let's narrow it down to the size of Atiku's campaign team, for example, and the notable absence of the G5, as they have come to be known now, and possibly becoming G6 if we look at some of the meetings that have been happening with the governor of Bauchi State over the past few days. Now, we've heard positive news coming from the PDP saying that there is a renewed fervor to re-engage and to chart a way forward. However, we've been hearing this rhetoric for a while. We've been hearing that the PDP is a family. This has been the messaging around this issue. However, we are just about 100 days to election, and we still do not see campaign posters for Atiku Abubakar in Rivers State, for example. Where are we going with regards to uniting the PDP on our road to the polls as we're relating to working together as a team and the size of our teams? I think this is a relevant question.
Well, let me start from the rear. In terms of campaign posters, we do have billboards of the Atiku Okowa campaign in Rivers. I can tell you that authoritatively because I'm actually somebody who is at the helm of affairs when it comes to a number of the billboards in the south, particularly in the south. And so I do know, I have the pictures of billboards of Atiku and Okowa in Rivers. What you may be talking is before now is that some of the vehicles, the usual engagements of the government of that state may not have fallen in line. And I'm sure you also heard our leader, Nyesom Wike, making it clear that the gate to reconciliation is not closed. The name of our party is People's Democratic Party, which means it talks about the people. And democracy, to the best of my knowledge, is about plurality of views and the ability of individuals to ventilate their grievances and be able to also state their own viewpoint. And that is what makes PDP tick. That these individuals are able to say where it pains them and nobody shuts them down. It's actually one of those ingredients of democracy which PDP embodies. And the beautiful thing about it is that these individuals, these governors and leaders you have talked about, and in any case, they still remain G5. There's not like G6 at the moment. It is in the process of engaging that you see them meeting with other governors and, of course, meeting with other past leaders and a number of other persons in the party because they want to engage. And we have also said at different times that the issues they have raised is not out of place and that the leadership of the party, including former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, the presidential candidate of our party, agrees that there is a need for us to take a second look at the alignment and realignment of offices, particularly with respect to the National Working Committee of the party. But at the only point of disagreement, and it still remains the only point of disagreement, is the issue of the timeline. And that once this timeline is sorted out, you can see that everybody is on the same page. And I can tell you that we have made a whole lot of progress because the G5 are very much determined for the party to win the next election, which is why, apart from the fact that a number of them are contesting on the platform of the party, even Nyesom Wike, who is not contesting any election, says, no, I'm going to remain in the party. Remember, Wike once said, and we must thank him and appreciate him for that, that it is better to remain in a party that is suffering from malaria than to proceed to the one that has a cancer. And you know the party he is talking about. And I do know that we do have a whole lot of plethora of drugs and medication that you can use to deal with malaria and then get it done in a few weeks. Unlike cancer, that is almost like a death sentence. So, just take it easy. In PDP, we are very much aware that our leaders are discussing, and in the not too distant time, you will see that indeed we are moving in one direction, not only for the purpose of winning election, but for the purpose of getting Nigeria to move in a direction that speaks more to nationalism than ethnicity.
Well, you're using a lot of figures of speech. This malaria of yours seems to be quite resistant because the wicked... Malaria
these days is how they call multi-drug resistant. Are you not aware?
I am, but...
So malaria these days, sometimes you go and buy one particular... I don't want to advertise for any. You buy A, it doesn't work. They'll ask you to take an injection. I just finished treating one about 2 weeks ago.
So, okay.
I have to take multiple drugs to be able to deal with it. So malaria actually has become multi-drug resistant. That is why what you are saying is taking a longer time, but you cannot compare it to cancer.
Well, I know some cancer survivors that have, that are cancer-free.
It takes a very heavy toll.
Okay, I'm sure it does, and maybe not in all cases, but this, we're still likening the crisis in PDP to this malaria treatment. You've tried different things.
It's not crisis, you mean the disagreement?
Whatever you want to call it. You've had people step in, whether with various meetings, whether it's Goodluck Jonathan or IBB, Ibrahim Babangida, everybody's still saying the same thing. This will be resolved soon. It will be resolved soon. Goodluck Jonathan has distanced himself, saying that he's not behind this G5
and what does that
disagreement. But my question is, when are we going to actually see an end to this, as opposed to the constant weekly, will be resolved soon, will be resolved soon? What is going to be the bone of contention? And if there's no end to this disagreement, when are you going to say enough is enough? Because at the end of the day, there has to be an end game.
From this, your question is like some part of your heart beat very favorably for the PDP.
Far from it.
Because I can see a whole lot of persons that they are because so
I'm
much
neutral.
They are because
I just
so
want
much
to know how this story ends.
Let me tell you one funny thing. Most Nigerians,
and we have a minute, please.
Most Nigerians, even those who are even in the court, knows that the PDP is the solution to most of our challenges. And because of that, from one corner or the other, they are praying, let the PDP get it right. Because the APC will be very, very dangerous for it to return to power because of where they have led us to. And so I can assure you that from what I see and from where I sit, without the knowledge of any clairvoyance, I see the hearts of many persons beating for PDP. And God bless all of you for being interested. But I can assure you that part of your heart that has internal investment in the PDP will be very, very safe, because the PDP will win the election and you have cause to relax. We will win the election. We will move in one direction with these our leaders. We will settle our differences, not crisis. And as you can see, most of these leaders are all talking. And don't forget, the persons you mentioned have at one time or the other been in the PDP, including the former military president, Ibrahim Babangida. You recall he once contested as a contestant for the office of the president of the PDP. Goodluck Jonathan says, I am not following them. What does that tell you? Goodluck Jonathan has looked at also every other person who is contesting. And most leaders have to say no, if PDP is a better option. There could be those who could score A1 in mathematics, but will score 0 in all the other courses. Of course, you can't gain admission with that. But in PDP, we are scoring B1, B1, B1 in all the courses, which means we will not only gain admission, we will even be among the first choice if it were to be university where you now have first list. And that is why most of these leaders are navigating towards the PDP. And please, when you leave your newsroom, you are welcome on board to be articulated.
No, thank you.
Well, we will
stay neutral.
What we do look forward to is, of course, the result, the outcome of the report card, as you put it, that we will all be privy to in February. Charles Aniagwu, Delta State Commissioner of Information, thank you kindly for your time. This has been...
Thanks for having me. And I look forward to coming back even before the result comes out, so that you will remind me that I said that part of your heart that beats for the PDP is actually protected.